Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. The guy at the entrance looked at me like I was someone's lost assistant. "Sorry, miss, you're not on the list." I stared at him, blinking once. "Rachel Donovan? Can you check again?" He glanced at the tablet in his hand and barely shook his head. "Nope, only the immediate family of Commander Jack Donovan. That's what it says. Immediate family. That was rich." I took a slow breath and stepped back from the line of guests in evening gowns and dress blues. The double doors behind the guard glowed with warm light and laughter, spilling into the hot August night. I could hear my mom's laugh from inside. My brother's name was on the banner above the doors, honoring Commander Jack Donovan, a legacy of service. Legacy, right. Quick note before we get deeper. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. My name's Rachel. I'm 36 and I live in Norfolk, Virginia. And that night, I stood outside a military gala honoring my brother, the golden boy, while wearing jeans and a blouse like a damn fool. I should have known better, but I'd come anyway, half out of pride, half out of some pathetic hope that this time would be different. It wasn't. I caught a glimpse of my mom through the glass when she passed by the lobby window. Her red dress was just as loud as her voice. She didn't even glance outside. Next to her, Dad stood in his old uniform, chest puffed up, eyes scanning the crowd like he was still on active duty. He used to be a Navy captain, still walked like one. I stepped back from the window. My brother Jack had always been the favorite. He walked into every room like it owed him something. Tonight he looked like a politician, smiling, shaking hands, drinking in every word like it was applause. No one missed me, no one even expected me. It wasn't just the guest list. It was the way my parents barely talked about me at all. When I graduated with top marks from the academy, crickets. When I got my own commission, Dad said, "That's nice, but you know Jack just got back from deployment." Everything I did was a footnote to Jack's headline. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. Probably another update from the Navy group chat about some meaningless policy change. I wasn't in the mood. I clenched my jaw and kept my eyes on the entrance. I'd stood on dirt airstrips in godforsaken countries, collecting intel that saved American lives. But tonight, I wasn't even on a damn list. A couple walked past me, laughing. I didn't move. I stood there, hands in my pockets, eyes burning. And just like always, I swallowed it down and walked toward the parking lot, head high like I wasn't dying inside. End of scene. Action. Rachel walks away from the venue, head held high. I didn't cry in the car. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, watching people filter into the venue like they were stepping into a movie premiere. That wasn't new. Being left out was pretty much the story of my life. Growing up, everything in our house revolved around Jack. Soccer tournaments, science fairs, spelling bees. Didn't matter what it was. Somehow Jack was the main event. He'd score a goal, and Mom would throw a backyard barbecue. I'd come home with a perfect report card, and she'd say, "Good job, honey," without even looking up from folding laundry. Jack was loud and magnetic. He made friends fast, teachers loved him, coaches praised him. I was the kid in the corner with a book under the dinner table because I didn't want to be forced into another family photo with him holding a damn trophy. One time in 7th grade, I won a regional math competition, beat out 20 schools, came home with a medal and a certificate. My dad glanced at it and said, "That's nice. Jack's got the semifinals this weekend. We'll all be there." I just nodded and shoved the medal in my drawer. I think it's still there, somewhere under old notebooks and dried out pens. When Jack got accepted into the Naval Academy, they threw him a full-blown ceremony, real invitations. Dad wore his dress whites. There was a cake shaped like an aircraft carrier and a slideshow in the living room set to some corny country song about bravery. I sat in the back, near the patio door, just sipping soda and watching everyone toast to our future commander. No one asked what I planned to do after high school. No one cared. I didn't go into the military to follow in Jack's footsteps. Honestly, I didn't want to be anywhere near the same spotlight he basked in. I wanted to earn something for myself. So I chose intelligence, quiet work, complicated work, the kind where one mistake meant lives were lost. But I was good at it. Damn good. When I made it into the Naval Academy myself, I told Dad over the phone. He was quiet for a second and then said, "You sure you're cut out for that kind of thing?" It's not exactly reading books anymore. That stung more than if he'd just said I wasn't good enough. That kind of backhanded swipe was his specialty. Never cruel, just dismissive, like I was a hobby project that never quite worked. Even at the academy, I stayed under the radar. While Jack was getting written up in the alumni newsletters for his leadership drills and command presence, I was pulling all-nighters studying enemy strategy and behavioral analytics. I had a professor once tell me, "Rachel, you think like a general." I smiled, said thank you, and went back to taking notes. I never mentioned it to my parents. Jack's photos were all over the walls at home. Him in his flight suit, him shaking hands with admirals, him on the deck of a destroyer. Mine? There was one picture from my basic training graduation. Crooked frame, tucked behind the bookshelf. It wasn't even that I wanted applause. I just wanted to matter, to be seen as more than the backup. But in our house, there was only ever one star. Eventually, I stopped trying to impress them. I figured if they couldn't see me by now, they never would. I looked out the windshield at the lights from the gala, still glowing like some shrine to Jack's endless victories. And yeah, I was pissed. But I wasn't broken. I turned the key and started the engine. End of scene. Action. Rachel starts the car and prepares to leave. I pulled out of the parking spot but didn't drive off. Just circled the block and stopped again across the street from the venue. I didn't know why. Maybe I wasn't ready to let go of the burn in my chest. Maybe I wanted to see how far they'd take it this time. The front of the building looked like a damn recruiting commercial. Red, white, and blue uplights, oversized posters of Jack in uniform, and a banner twice the size of my car that said, "Our hometown hero, Commander Jack Donovan." You'd think the guy cured cancer and brought peace to the Middle East. I stepped out again, moved closer to the edge of the sidewalk, just watching. Through the glass doors, I could see the slideshow running across the wall inside. Pictures of Jack at sea, Jack getting pinned with another medal, Jack standing next to some four-star general like they were best friends. The crowd laughed at something. Jack must have told one of his dumb stories again, probably the one about the broken radio on the destroyer that he fixed by smacking it. He used to love telling that one like he was some tech wizard. What he never mentioned was that the miscommunication started because of a satellite code mismatch, one I flagged before it spiraled into a real crisis. But he got the credit. He always did. I saw him near the front, drink in hand, smile like it was painted on. And there they were, my parents flanking him like he was royalty. My mom touched his arm and leaned in to laugh. Dad stood stiff beside him, nodding while some younger officer gushed about Jack's latest deployment. Neither of them looked toward the door. No one even glanced outside. I turned away and walked toward the front entrance again. The same security guy from earlier caught sight of me. "You again?" he said, not unkindly. "Still not on the list, ma'am." I didn't say anything this time, just nodded once and stepped aside. My face stayed calm, but my fists clenched tight at my sides. Behind me, the laughter kept rolling. Glasses clinked, music kicked in. I could almost hear Jack's voice on the mic, smooth, confident, probably tossing in some charming line about serving with honor. Hell, maybe he was already calling out Dad in the crowd, thanking him for his example, making the whole room misty-eyed. And me? Still standing outside. Same as always. As I backed away, I caught a flash of an old memory. Jack at 11, grinning while our cousins laughed at a prank he pulled on me. He swapped out my science fair note cards with ones that said things like, "I love farts and I'm a nerd." I froze mid-presentation. Everyone cracked up. Jack said it was just a joke. Years later, during leave, he'd still bring it up. "Remember when I gave your speech a little extra flavor?" Every time I'd smile like it was funny. It wasn't. It was never just about the jokes. It was always about the punchline being me. I turned and walked back across the street to my car. This time, I didn't hesitate. I opened the trunk and grabbed the black garment bag. My uniform was inside, my dress whites. Pressed, polished, ready. I gripped the bag like it was armor. And right there, in the shadow of Jack's perfect party, I felt it hit me. Sharp, cold, final. I was done being the background, done being the afterthought. I wasn't here to be seen. I was here to be recognized. End of scene. Action. Rachel clutches her uniform bag with resolve and prepares for what's next. I slung the uniform bag over my shoulder and climbed into the car, tossing it onto the passenger seat like it weighed more than just fabric and pins. That thing carried everything I'd done. The things no one in that damn building across the street cared to see, especially not my family. I didn't start out trying to be a ghost in the military. It just sort of happened. My first assignment was out in Bahrain, buried in a low-ceilinged intel bunker with no windows and 24-hour rotations. I remember my first month, staring at satellite feeds, decoding encrypted messages, chasing patterns no one else even noticed. We worked in silence, mostly. No hero speeches. Just black coffee and red eyes and alerts that could ruin your whole week if they lit up. That's where I learned what mattered. Not medals, not salutes, results. You stop a supply route from getting bombed? You reroute a drone strike that would have hit civilians? You save lives without ever leaving the room? That's real work, and I was damn good at it. One night, 2 years in, we picked up weird signal traffic out of the Eastern Mediterranean. It was subtle, barely there, but something felt off. I pushed it upstairs, nobody listened. So I went around the chain and ran the analysis myself. Buried in the code was a comms mismatch, a bugged protocol in one of our newer satellites. The system was rerouting command signals in a way that made two of our destroyers look like hostile contacts. One of those ships was the USS Monarch, Jack's ship. They were about 30 minutes from a live fire incident. Real missiles. Real people. I flagged it, pushed it, screamed about it until some colonel finally took me seriously. They halted the maneuver with 5 minutes to spare. Jack never knew. Not that it would have mattered. That kind of intel gets buried. The op was sealed and filed. No debrief, no medals, no speech. I went back to my station the next day and reviewed troop movement reports out of Syria. When I called home that weekend, I mentioned I'd pulled back-to-back 16-hour shifts. My dad asked if I was just watching screens again. Something like that, I said. He grunted. Well, Jack's getting a special commendation for that last mission. Your mother's over the moon? Yeah, I heard. Anyway, keep working hard. You'll get there. I already was there. He just couldn't see it. Promotions came slow but steady. Lieutenant, then lieutenant commander. I got sent to DC for a 2-year stint running a joint task unit for threat prevention. Real serious stuff. Cyber terrorism, foreign surveillance, counterintelligence. I was in rooms with people who didn't blink unless something was on fire. My mom still sent emails asking if I was enjoying office life. She liked to talk about how exciting it must be for Jack, always off doing missions, while I sat at a desk. Let me tell you something. Sitting at a desk with a red phone and a 3-minute window to stop a convoy ambush, that'll age you faster than combat boots in sand. But it was always like that. Jack's stories were told at dinner. Mine didn't even make the plate. I once got pulled into a last-minute briefing with the Pentagon Chief of Staff. I'd connected 2 threat nodes across 3 continents using partial radio intercepts and a grainy drone image. We stopped an assassination attempt on a U.S. diplomat. Saved lives, changed policy, the whole 9 yards. When I told my dad later that week I'd received a letter of commendation, he said, "That's nice. Jack just finished training with SEAL team reps. Real impressive stuff." Every compliment was like a backhand I wasn't allowed to block. Just nod, take it, move on. Still, I kept going. Not because of them, because I knew what I did mattered. Those late nights in blacked-out rooms, running counter-ops, tracing digital footprints across oceans, those were the moments that built me. Those were the reasons I wore the uniform. Even if no one in my family gave a damn. I looked over at the garment bag next to me, fingers twitching against the wheel. They wanted a hero in the spotlight. Fine. I'd show them what the real thing looked like. End of scene. Action. Rachel grips the steering wheel, decision taking shape. My hand tightened on the steering wheel. I sat there for a long second, the sound of the engine humming low while I stared through the windshield at nothing. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was done. They didn't need to clap. They didn't need to understand the kind of work I did or what it cost me, but they were damn well going to see me, and they were going to see all of it. Rank, medals, every last bit they ignored while they toasted Jack for pushing buttons on a radio. I killed the engine and looked down at the garment bag beside me. I unzipped it slowly, pulled the fabric back like I was uncovering something sacred. My dress whites, clean, pressed, sharp as a blade. The metal rack sat perfectly centered. Service ribbons tight, nameplate straight. This wasn't a costume. This wasn't for them. It was for me. For every classified mission they never heard about, every sleepless night in a windowless bunker, every inch I climbed without applause. I'd earned every stitch of this uniform. They wanted to honor a Donovan tonight? Good. I was one. The next few hours were mechanical. I drove back to the hotel, didn't rush, didn't speak, just moved with purpose, like I'd already decided how the night would end. Once in the room, I laid everything out. Jacket, pants, cover, shoes, belt, gloves. I polished my shoes until I could see my own face, tightened every ribbon on the rack, adjusted every pin, every mark, every rank insignia. I wasn't walking into that room to blend in. I was walking in to stand. I thought about calling someone, a friend, a fellow officer, just to say it out loud, but I didn't. This wasn't a mission. This wasn't strategy or protocol. This was personal, and I needed it to be quiet. I stood in front of the mirror after I got dressed, pulled my hair back into a tight bun, straightened my jacket again, checked every seam like I was preparing for inspection. I looked like command. I was command. They might not understand what it meant, but they would recognize who I was. The knock at the door was room service. I ignored it. I wasn't eating. My stomach was locked up tight, but it wasn't nerves. It was fire. I checked my watch. I had 15 minutes before the award ceremony part of the gala kicked off. That's when the speeches would start. The cameras, the spotlight. Perfect timing. I stared out the hotel window at the skyline. Just beyond it, I could see the top of the venue lit up in blue and gold. Tomorrow, maybe they'd forget again. Maybe they'd slide back into their Jack worship routine and pretend tonight never happened. I didn't care. I wasn't doing this to change their minds. I was doing it so I never forgot what I'm worth. I grabbed my cover and stepped out the door. End of scene. Action. Rachel leaves the hotel, dressed and ready. I stepped out of the hotel and into the night, cover tucked under my arm, my dress whites cutting through the darkness like truth. The lights from the gala shimmered ahead of me. Same red, white, and blue beams, same clinking glasses, same roaring laughter from inside. But I didn't flinch this time. I walked straight up to the same front doors that had spit me out hours earlier. The security guy looked up. For a second, he didn't recognize me. Then his eyes dropped to the nameplate on my chest and everything shifted. "Commander Donovan," he said, straightening up fast. I handed him my ID without a word. His hands moved a little slower this time, careful, respectful. His eyes kept flicking from the card to my face, then to the rack of medals on my chest. He cleared his throat. "You're cleared. Please, right this way." I stepped past him like I owned the place. Not because I wanted to, but because I finally realized I didn't need anyone's permission to exist. Inside, the lobby buzzed with voices and dress uniforms. The moment I crossed the threshold, people started noticing. Heads turned. Conversations paused mid-sentence. No one said my name, but I could feel the air change as I moved deeper into the venue. The slideshow was still going. Jack's greatest hits. There he was again on the screen, saluting, jogging the flight deck, posing with commanders like a damn Navy calendar boy. I didn't look at it. I kept walking. The ballroom doors opened, and that's when the silence hit. Just a thin gap in the noise, but sharp enough to cut through the music. A few officers near the back actually stepped aside. I walked in slow, deliberate. My shoes echoed on the tile. My medals caught the light, and for the first time in my life, the room actually saw me. Not Rachel the sister, not the background. Commander Rachel Donovan. I didn't smile, I didn't wave. I just walked straight toward the front like I belonged there. Because I did. People started whispering, I caught snatches of it. "Who is that? Wait, is that Jack's sister? Is she active duty? Look at her ribbons. Jesus." I didn't stop. Didn't break stride. Near the front row, I saw them. My mom was the first to notice. She blinked like she didn't recognize me. Her jaw tightened. She nudged my dad. He turned slowly. His eyes moved from my face to my collar to my medals. Then back up. He didn't say a word, but he stood a little straighter. Jack saw me next. He was mid-laugh, drink in hand, probably telling some cocky story about his last deployment. The smile fell before the sentence finished. His brow pulled together, like I'd just walked into his living room during a live interview. I held his stare as I walked past. He didn't move. I took an empty seat in the front row, third from the center. Didn't look left or right. Just sat down like it was mine. And it was. My uniform did the talking. My record sat on my chest. Everything I'd ever been was right there in plain view. For once, I didn't feel like a ghost. I felt like a damn storm. End of scene. Action. Rachel takes her seat at the front, calm and unshaken. I kept my eyes forward, locked on the stage. My hands rested flat on my thighs, my breathing steady. I could still feel eyes on me, dozens of them now, shifting like heat across my shoulders. Jack cleared his throat from the podium. The MC had just handed it over to him, and he looked like he wasn't sure what came next. His fingers tapped the index cards in his hand, out of rhythm. He started, scanning the crowd too fast. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This means a lot." His voice didn't land right. You could hear it. People weren't tuned in the same way anymore. Someone up front leaned toward the person next to them and whispered something while glancing at me. Camera shutters clicked 3 times in a row. That sound, snap, 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 cut through the air like gunfire. Jack noticed. His smile twitched, the edges fraying. Service has always been in our blood, he went on. Our family? Well, we're proud to wear the uniform. He paused and looked at me. For too long. And I guess I'm not the only one anymore. A couple chuckles floated out. Nervous ones. I didn't flinch. I didn't smile. I just held his stare, daring him to say more. He didn't. He dropped his eyes to the mic, adjusted it slightly, then pushed through the rest of his speech. It was the usual fluff. Honor, commitment, sacrifice. But it rang empty now. Like someone reading a script they didn't believe in anymore. And the room felt it. I could feel the weight of the moment shifting. People weren't looking at Jack. They were looking at me. Some standing, others whispering. A few just silently watching like they didn't know what the hell just hit them. One of the photographers knelt right in front of me and clicked 4 quick shots before retreating. Jack finally wrapped up with some line about how we stand on the shoulders of giants and waved the mic toward our dad. Dad nodded, tight-lipped, but didn't move, didn't even clap. The silence hung for a beat too long. Then a woman from the back row, a Navy nurse in full uniform, stood and said clear as day, "Commander Donovan, we're honored to have you here." Every head turned. She wasn't looking at Jack. She was looking at me. My chair creaked as I stood. I gave her the smallest nod. "Thank you," I said. My voice didn't have to be loud. It just had to be mine. 2 officers near the aisle stood next. Then 3 more. Then people across the middle row. It wasn't planned. It wasn't loud. But suddenly the room was shifting under my boots. One by one they stood. Not for Jack, not for some slideshow highlight reel. For me. I wasn't the sideshow anymore. I wasn't the name they forgot to put on the guest list. I was the one they were photographing, the one people were whispering about, not because of drama, but because of presence. And I didn't have to say a damn thing to earn it. Jack tried to speak again, something like, "We appreciate all who serve," but it got swallowed by the movement around me. A Navy commander from the 7th Fleet came up during the mingling portion and offered his hand. "Ma'am, I've read your name before. I didn't expect to see the face behind the file tonight." I shook his hand firmly. "Glad to be here, sir." A lieutenant from Intel passed me with wide eyes. "You're her. Holy crap." I just gave a half smile. "Guess I am." I moved through the crowd slowly, controlled, watching the same people who used to brush past me now step out of my way. Even the caterers seemed to pause when I walked by. Every step I took felt like rewriting a page in my family's story. This room wasn't built for me, but I was in it now, and no one could unsee it. End of scene. Action. Rachel moves through the crowd, her presence commanding the room. I stepped away from the center of the room once the ceremony wrapped. The crowd broke into clusters, people shaking hands, sipping champagne, the usual post-speech hum settling in. I found a quiet spot near one of the tall windows, hands behind my back, stance calm. I didn't need to chase anything. The night had already said what I needed it to. A young Marine captain passed by and gave a nod. "Ma'am, impressive show of presence tonight." "Thank you, Captain," I said. Another officer, someone from Naval Cyber Command, cut through the crowd just to shake my hand. "Your work on the Mid-Atlantic signal scrubs was textbook." "Didn't know you were that Donovan." "Not many do," I said. I didn't smile much. I wasn't trying to. I stood steady, the weight of my uniform grounding me while the noise swirled around like static. Then I saw him. Dad, still in his old Navy dress blues, minus the shine. He moved slower now. Same posture, same jawline that never cracked. He approached like he wasn't sure if I'd welcome him, but he didn't stop either. He stood in front of me for a second before speaking, looked me up and down, not with judgment, not even with surprise, just seeing me. "Dress whites fit you well," he said finally. "They should," I said. "Been earning them long enough." He gave the slightest nod. "I saw the ribbons. You've done work." "I have." He shifted his weight, hands clasped behind his back, then said, "Some of it above my pay grade, I imagine." I didn't answer that. He already knew. After a pause, he added, "Not many get that kind of respect in a room like this, unless they've earned it." That was it. No, "I'm proud of you." No long speech, just a single, measured acknowledgement. But from him, it meant more than any damn toast ever could. I gave a slow nod back. "Took long enough." He cracked something that might have been the start of a smile but didn't quite make it. Then he stepped aside, and that's when Jack showed up. He came in from the side like he was trying to time it so no one else saw him. His drink was gone, and for once, he looked a little unsteady. Not drunk, just unsure of his footing. "Hey," he said, stopping about 2 feet away. That was unexpected. I raised an eyebrow. "Was it?" He scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, no, I guess not. I just didn't know you were, I mean, that deep into it. I've been in for almost 15 years, Jack. You never asked." He winced a little. "Yeah, that's on me." I waited. He shifted again, like his shoes didn't fit. "You always kept your stuff close to the chest, you know? I figured you were doing admin or, I don't know." "Not that." I tilted my head slightly. "You thought I joined the Navy to file paperwork?" He gave a weak laugh. "I don't know what I thought. Guess I wasn't thinking." For the first time, maybe ever, he looked like he didn't have a line ready. No joke. No charm. Just silence. He glanced down at the metal rack on my chest. "You ever get written up for the Monarch incident?" I froze. "How do you know about that?" "Some guy from Joint Command mentioned it to me a while back. Said someone in Intel flagged a near-fatal comms loop that saved our ass. Never knew it was you." "Didn't think you needed to." I didn't, but I should have. That landed different. He met my eyes. "You're the real deal, Rach." I didn't see it before. "That's on me." I nodded once. "Yeah, it is." He didn't try to hug me. Didn't say more. Just gave a small nod and backed off into the crowd, like he knew there was nothing else to say that wouldn't just cheapen it. I stood alone again, but it didn't feel empty. The noise of the room faded into the background. My hands stayed still at my sides, heart finally quiet. They saw me now, not because I yelled or begged or stood behind anyone else, because I walked in as me. That was enough. End of scene. Action. Rachel stands alone, grounded, as the crowd fades around her. A couple months later, I pulled into my parents' driveway for the first time in years. The siding on the house was a little more faded, the lawn still cut sharp like Dad ran drills through it. Nothing had really changed, and somehow, everything had. I stepped inside without knocking. My mom called from the kitchen like I'd never been gone. "Rachel, you want some iced tea?" "Sure," I said, toeing off my shoes. The place smelled the same: lemon polish, old carpet, a hint of coffee that probably burned hours ago. But it felt lighter, like the tension that used to hang over every photo frame had cracked open, just a little. I walked into the living room and stopped. The cabinet in the corner, the one that used to be Jack's personal trophy case. It looked different now. Right in the middle, between my dad's old medals and Jack's command plaque, was my own set of service ribbons, my naval intelligence insignia, even my commendation coin from the Mid-Atlantic incident, all lined up, neat and intentional. Not thrown in, not hidden behind a souvenir mug. Placed. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. My dad came in a minute later, slower than he used to walk. He glanced at the cabinet, then at me. "You make the Navy proud, Rachel," he said. "And me too." It hit me harder than I expected. Not because I needed to hear it, because he meant it. I nodded once. "Thanks, Dad." That was it. No speeches, no teary hugs. Just a moment. And for the first time, it didn't feel like he was just tolerating who I'd become. It felt like he saw it. We sat on the porch for a while after that. Him with his newspaper, me with my tea. Mom came out once to offer cookies, then left us alone. Jack didn't show. He was stationed overseas again, but his tone had shifted since the gala. He texted now, asked real questions. Not perfect, but it didn't have to be. Eventually, I stood to leave. My dad didn't try to stop me, just gave me a firm nod and a rare half smile. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror and felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not pride, not approval, just peace. I didn't need to prove anything anymore, not to them, not to Jack, not even to myself. I'd done the work, I'd made my mark, and finally, that was enough. End of scene. Action. Rachel drives away, at peace with who she is.